What if the secret to success wasn't just talent or hard work, but unshakable confidence? Welcome to Grasp Confidence, the podcast where visionary thought leaders, speakers, and entrepreneurs unlock the mindset and strategies for lasting success. I'm your host, Tara LaFawn Gooch, CEO, two-time best-selling author, and international TEDx speaker, and I can't wait to help you step into the most powerful version of yourself. Let's dive in. Today's guest is someone I met on a retreat in Belize last month, and after one powerful conversation, I knew she had to be on the show. Please welcome Jocelyn Luko-Sandstrom, a global speaker and mentor based in Hawaii who helps visionary leaders turn their highest visions into lived reality. Having lived and worked in 12 countries and after a career spanning fashion and film and global stages, Jocelyn now guides others to release hustle, align with truth, and create abundance from the inside out. This is a powerful conversation you don't want to miss. Jocelyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here, and I'm so grateful that we had the opportunity to meet in the most incredible place.
Right? It was awesome.
It was pure magic.
Yeah. I mean, how many people do you get to say, well, we met on an island in Belize?
Yes, on an opportunity that dropped in out of the blue.
Same.
Yes. Just
But
the way that it dropped in.
isn't that how it works when you're aligned, when you are high vibrational, when you allow things to come into your life, opportunities just kind of come to you, right?
Yes, when we get out of the way, when we get our mind out of the way, the fears, the worries, the doubts, the pushing, the proving, the achieving, and we just get into that alignment, take aligned action, and let the universe blow our mind.
Oh, wow. So this opportunity came to me out of the blue as well, came to you out of the blue as well. And it's for a reason, right? And I think that so much of, the culture that we are just a part of, the things that we consume, the content, it's all about hustle, hustle, drive, 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 work yourself to the bone. But I've actually found the powers in the pause. What do you think about that?
Well, I came from the hustle culture. I had burnt out so many times to the point that my body wouldn't allow me to keep going. I ended up not just having chronic fatigue syndrome, which is something that the doctors, I think, just label burnout.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I ended up, unfortunately, having 5 miscarriages, and each one had brought me more into alignment to realize that I needed to stop doing this, and it wasn't sustainable, to the point that the last one, I was being rushed to the emergency room because I was hemorrhaging, and the only thing I saw was my son living without a mom because I was doing this. And that was the wake-up call that I really needed. I wish I didn't have to get to that point, and I share this story so hopefully people can realize that and not have to get to that point, but it did wake me up, and I had made some drastic changes and went on crazy experiments to just listen to my gut instead of doing all the time, to just find those aligned actions that would be the biggest movement, and then get out of the way and realize that there's something bigger than us. I used to think we were doing it all the time, and I made this career happen and I created all this success in my life. But after these things happened, I realized the biggest things that actually shifted my life dropped in out of the blue. I didn't do it. It was an opportunity, a newspaper writing an article on me, whatever the chance encounter. And just like Belize, bringing us all together, everyone there, it dropped in out of the blue for them. So we brought this most beautiful group of people together, not through hustle, not through force, but from all of us listening to our gut, taking aligned action, and then this opportunity dropped in. And so I actually went on a crazy experiment 2 summers ago because of all of this. And I went to Canada. Were lucky enough to spend the summer on my father-in-law's boat every summer. And to me, that's like this beautiful reset because we're just on the boat going from island to island in nature, present, away from everything. Sometimes we didn't even have Wi-Fi. And it really brings me home to my truth. So when I came home, I stepped into this reality again, back into my life where all the stuff is. And I said, I'm not doing it the old way. I am just going to go on this crazy experiment. I'm just going to listen to my gut. And so the first day, I'm like, okay, do I post? Do I go on one of my mentors' webinars? Do I do this? Do I do that? Or do I rest? Do I do yoga? Do I meditate? And every time it told me to rest. And I'm like, this is crazy. So the only thing I ended up doing that week was teaching my programs, working with my clients. And the rest of the week, my gut just told me to rest, rest, rest. And every time I did, I felt like I was killing my business because I thought I had to post every day. I thought I had to be on a webinar, don't watch TV, always be on a podcast, always read, otherwise you're going to be a failure, right? And so every time I felt like I was killing my business, I had to reprogram it because I said, there's another way. I can do it through alignment. I can do it through energetics. And so I would reprogram the failure until I felt neutral. And I knew something was going to drop in that week. I just had this feeling and I didn't know what it was, but I just knew that if I could do this, something was going to shift in my life. And that Friday is when I got invited to speak in New York at the World Trade Center during New York Climate Week. And New York was my biggest stage that I thought I'd have to work up for years. I thought that I'd have to start and do all of this. And it was one of the first stages that dropped in for me through this alignment. And after that, I just did this. And that's how all these incredible things just keep dropping into my life through alignment. And so it's so important. And it seems the scariest to release the hustle because was what was programmed into us. But it's the thing that's slowing us down. And I'm not saying don't do anything. I'm just saying do align things. And sometimes those aligned things are rest. Sometimes those aligned things are work. Sometimes it's posting. Sometimes it's, whatever it might be, but it's just through alignment.
That is so, so true and completely echoes my own lived experience to a T. It really does. And I mean, it's hard, Jocelyn. I'm a high performer, right? I'm one of those people. Um, so it's not easy for me, right? To take a back, to relax, to rest. I am always thinking, what else can I be doing, right? But what I've found is that if I continue to do that, there's a difference between aligned action and then action through force, action through obligation, action to get some type of objective, right? Which we can't control the outcome anyway. And I mean, I'm as guilty of that as anybody else of wanting to just go, go, go. But I have found the same that when I pause, when I take time off, that's when all the good stuff comes. Where's the balance? How do you find the balance?
I just feel like the balance comes through the more that you really just listen to your gut, your truth, whatever that is. A lot of times we push because it comes from proving, pleasing, achieving. It comes from when we hook our worth to our business or to our money or our identity to it. And so therefore it comes from survival mode. It comes from, I need to do more. And so one of the ways that I was able to find that balance was I unhooked my worth from my business, from money. I realized that I'm born worthy and deserving because I'm a fractal of divine, because I'm my God self, because I'm alive. And we were just conditioned to think that we had to earn our worth because we were in a society of measuring our grades. Did we do good enough? Did we perform? Even in school, they told us, oh, you could never be an artist. Artists don't make money. Do something that, think about the money you want to make and then think about the career you want to do. And then when you are successful, then you're worthy. Not you're born worthy because you're a miracle that came into this life. I know more than anybody because I had 5 babies that didn't make it. What a miracle my son is. So when you think about your children, do you think they're not worthy when they're born?
Right.
Or do you
Exactly.
think
They're
about them?
worthy.
Yes. And we just allow society to tell us that we're not. But we are lucky because I know you and I and a lot of people now are raising our children in this new way of you're born worthy, and I'm not here to mold you. I'm here to discover you. I'm here to discover what you came here to experience, what your gifts are. And we're so lucky to live in this era that our kids now have all these opportunities to choose from. But we also get to support them to help them to know that they're not here to earn their worth or to get good grades or to do all of these things. They're born worthy and deserving. Now, this is your playground. What do you want to do instead? And so I think once you can do that, for me, when I did that, that's when I was able to not hustle. That's when it didn't matter whether I reached these goals and my life stopped becoming about measuring and it started becoming living.
That is so powerful. So you're the spiritual billionaire. I like that. I think it's fun, right? It's very memorable. And the island in Belize that we met on the retreat center is owned by a billionaire. His name's Steve Hall. He was on Grasp of Confidence. Go back and watch that couple of shows. I think there was 3 tapings. What I have realized in my interview with him, my interview with other billionaires and very successful people, is one of the things they prioritize is really surprising. It's play. They prioritize play. They prioritize rest. And that's something, honestly, I'll just be honest, it didn't quite click with me until Belize. And he asked me a couple of times, he said, "But are you having fun?" Right? Because again, I'm that high achiever. I'm like, "Oh, I met this person and this is great because of this." And he said, "But are you having fun?" And he asked me that 3 times. So it's really stuck with me. And I said, "Why am I not thinking about that as much as I'm thinking about all these other things?" Right? So I just kind of, that was a big takeaway that I had. And it sounds like that's something that you kind of practice and preach as well, right?
So, first of all, he is amazing. He is, to me, the true spiritual billionaire. To me, what spiritual billionaires are the ones that come home to their truth, live in alignment, build wealth and impact, not just for themselves, but for the world. Once they build that wealth and impact, then they start investing into businesses, nonprofits, and leaders that are transforming the world, knowing that we do get to make a difference in this world. We get to be part of the transformation versus it being outside of us and being helpless to all the things that are going on in the world. And so meeting him was just such an inspiration because he really truly lives it. What I did notice is that a lot of times as people build their wealth, they do start out in the hustle. They do start out in the proving and the pleasing. And yes, we do. I mean, my last career was incredible, but I didn't get to enjoy it. And I think what happens is people start out in that hustle, then they get to that point to realize what I thought would make me happy, all of this stuff doesn't fill that void or that thing that we think is going to make us happy. And then we realize that there's more, and it doesn't have to do with the more of the materialism. It has to do with the more of the inside. And that's the living, the playing, we measured wealth by money, but to me, I measure wealth by how much you feel inside, that deep fulfillment. Every single person is wealthy if they just appreciate and really live in gratitude for the things that they have that the younger version wished that they had. They now have these things. If you think about yourself 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you're living this incredible life, but we're always looking forward and we're not living it until one day you look up and you're like, whoa, I'm missing out on everything because I'm achieving. And so now I'm going to enjoy this. And through that enjoyment, you open your energy, you open your frequency, you open your synchronicities. And then more comes in through ease and flow, not through push and force. And I noticed this with a lot of people. I even noticed it with some of my mentors. And like Neil Donald Walsh and some of my other mentors, they hit this point where Neil, he was homeless for a while. And that's when he realized he doesn't need all this stuff. Even my other mentor, Melanie Ann Lair, she lived out of her car for a while, and, was freezing every night, not eating. And that's when she realized these things, that life is not about these things. It's about these moments with your family, this, feeling the wind on your face, like really living. And once you can detach from that and realize it's like this moment where you don't need for anything because you have everything. When you can do that, you really are truly wealthy. And then it flows as a byproduct of it, not because you need it, but because it gets to, because you're just, the more gratitude you have, the more in love with your life, the more great, like the more that you live what the universe or God gave you, the more they will give you. Just like a little child that like is being so happy and loving, you just want to give them things. You just want to buy them things. That's the same way with, God, source, universe, divine, I believe, is the more that we are living, the more that we're serving because we love to, not because we want to get something out of it, the more that we receive through that energy and that frequency. And so I think people get to that point when they reach this amount of success and it's never enough, that they know it's something else. And then they prioritize the play, they prioritize the giving back to the community. One of the things that really hit me with Steve was when he said the law of reciprocity.
Yeah.
And he said, it's not about measuring where you're getting it from. What you give out will always come back to you. And you can give out here and it can come back here and it doesn't matter. But it doesn't matter whether it comes back or not. You just give because you get to, and it gets to come back however it's going to come out. And if you can live that way, you're truly wealthy and nothing can control you anymore. To me, that's true liberation.
Oh my gosh, you're speaking my language, right? I'm really passionate about giving. And, it's money is a currency. It's a current. It's supposed to flow. It's supposed to go from one person to another. It's supposed to nourish as it goes down the stream, right? It's not supposed to be blocked. It's not supposed to be hoarded. It's supposed to have a flow, an energetic flow. And this is really true and important. And when we give, it allows that channel to open. And I think, a lot of people think they're just going to save their way to success, but that's not true. You have to also give. And what I have found is the more I give, the more I get. And it's really true, isn't it? I think Anne Frank actually has a really good quote about this. She said, "No one has ever become poor from giving." Think about that. Like, how beautiful is that? And it's so true. And it's not just financial, but it's also a fulfillment, a deep inner fulfillment that you get from giving to others. You don't really get deep inner fulfillment from just consuming, right? Not really, but you do get that fulfillment from giving. What do you think about that?
I 100 million% agree with you on that.
Yes.
The only thing for that I had to find balance with is I came from giving so much till I bled.
Yeah,
Right?
you do have to
Literally.
have balance for sure.
And so it's like finding that balance. One of my mentors, she always said, Melanie, she would say, for me, for you, for me, for us. And I like to say, for me, for us in the world. But you have to remember you first, because if you keep giving before you have any battery, you have nothing left to give. And I used to play with this and I used to fill up my battery and then I used to go out into the world and see the ripples that I could make, because really like you said, it doesn't take money to do that. So the first time I played with this, I'd filled my battery up and I was on fire, and I went into Whole Foods and I was just gonna my plan was just to connect with people. And I got to the fish stand and there was a really grumpy guy behind the counter. And I thought, "Ooh, let's play with this. Let's connect with him. Let's see what we could do." And I started talking to him, asking him about his day, connecting with him as a human, not just, "Can I have this?" And then I started joking with him and he started laughing. And by the end of it, he was laughing. We were having fun. He ended up giving me a little bit of extra fish. And so I was like, I made a ripple. And then I left, but I wanted to see if that ripple lasted. I wanted to see if he was just going to be like that with me or if I actually made a difference. So I went off to the side and I kind of stood there and I watched. And he was the same with everybody else. And that's when I realized that it doesn't take money to ripple as well, too. And so through that, that completely changed my life. But I also realized I can't do that unless I fill my battery up first.
100%. Oh my gosh, so true. That's so important. And you want to make sure you're taken care of first. And this is why they say put the oxygen mask on yourself first, right? Before the passenger next to you. Because ultimately, if you don't have air, how can you give it to others? You have to take care of yourself first. So that's so, so important. What advice would you have for people who are listening to this show and they say, this is awesome? This is exactly, I feel aligned with this. I'm tired of hustling. I'm tired of grinding. I'm tired of living up to all these expectations the world has for me. And I want to be like Jocelyn and Tara and have a Belize trip drop out of the sky like we do. What advice would you give to somebody like that listening that says, I want this, what do I do next?
It starts with your beliefs. It starts with you claiming it and choosing it immediately. So the minute that you choose it, your reality starts shifting. I don't know how esoteric we can go, but I don't, when they talk about the matrix, I don't believe we're in a matrix. I believe we're coding it with our beliefs. Whatever your beliefs are will show up in your reality. People will always say things like, oh, I don't trust, but they trust that they can't trust. They say I'm not confident, but they're very confident that they're not confident. You're just channeling it into different things that are giving you the results in your life. But if you just start shifting that, if you believe you're a victim to your reality, you will be a victim to your reality. But if you believe that your thoughts shift your reality, then your thoughts will shift their reality. There's a really amazing, I can't do it on here because I don't know what people can see in their environment. I can try it because who knows where you are. Look around your room. And if there's anything red, just look around for red in your room right now and see if you can see the red and memorize all of the red. And then once you do, close your eyes. And without opening your eyes, tell me all the blue that is in your room.
That's right. We don't know because we were looking for the red, Jocelyn.
Yes. And so if you just start looking for the blue, it will start to show up. So there's no coincidence that this podcast dropped into your reality right now, that you're listening to it, and that you feel the knowing that it's time to remove the hustle because it's killing you and your energy and you're not enjoying it and it's affecting everyone around you. Therefore, you have nothing to give because you don't have a battery. Your battery is just drained on red all the time. And so you get to choose right now that aligned action is going to drop in beliefs for you. You get to choose that right now. And then you get to start validating that every single day. You get to look at the stories that you're telling yourself over and over. I used to not be the lucky one. And so I would never win things and things were always hard. And it was always a struggle for me until one day I woke up and I said, I'm tired of it being a struggle. Why does life have to be such a struggle? So I went and I reprogrammed being the lucky one. And I had gone, there's so many layers to this. So I used to, like I said, give to everyone when I had nothing to give. One of my clients gave me a gift card for 4 seasons. And my first initial reaction is, okay, let me bring my whole family to a dinner. But it was Christmas. I was exhausted. And yes, it would have been nice, but I really would, deep down inside, I thought, oh, but a spa to recharge my battery would feel so amazing. And I thought, but that's selfish. How could I take it for myself and not give it to my family? And then I realized if I can fill up this battery, because I was doing these experiments, I'll have so much more to give to my family. So I chose me, went into the spa, had the most incredible day, completely indulged into self-care, went into the sauna and reprogrammed myself to be this lucky one. When I was reprogramming myself, I found out that I wasn't allowing myself to be the lucky one. Because if I was lucky, I didn't earn it. So
Yeah.
every time people said, "Oh, she's just lucky," I said, "No, I'm not. I had to do this to get here." And then I realized, why do I care if they think I'm lucky and that it was easy and that I didn't earn it? Well, because I was still proving my worth. I still had to prove to people that it just doesn't come easy for me, that I worked, that I did something to receive this. And then I decided, I don't care what people think. I'm the one that has to live this life. So I'm going to be the lucky one. I chose to be the lucky one. And if people say that and they say, "Oh, you're just so lucky." And I'm like, "Yeah, I am. And you want to know the secret? I'll share it with you because it's a lot of fun." And so I left the spa feeling more powerful than ever before, more energized, more grounded, more centered, more nurtured than ever before. And I got home before I went in the house and I was checking my messages that I missed. And I got a message from my friend and she said, "You won a brand immersion with one of your mentors worth over $10,000." And I was like, "What?" She pulled that, the other week. I don't remember when it was, last month, and I didn't win. And she said, out of the blue, she pulled it again and you won. And from that point, all these things started to show up in my life because I said I was the lucky one. My husband and I would go and eat, and we went to go eat at this restaurant on a holiday. We went to the beach and we said, "Hey, let's just go try that restaurant for dinner." And he said, "But it's a holiday. You'll never get a reservation." And I said, "Yeah, I am. Because in my reality, I'm the lucky one." And so we walk up and then we get a reservation. Does it happen all the time? No, but the times that it doesn't, I trust that it was a universe redirect to bring me to something else. So the detachment is also really important. So you get to choose, and then you get to keep validating that in your reality over and over and over again, but out of the no need, out of the playfulness, out of, yeah, I am the lucky one. And if not, I'll find a way, no matter what, it will always lead to me being lucky. Because another time we went to that restaurant and we didn't get it right away. And I said, "Oh, maybe we're meant to go to the gift shop," because my son wanted to buy something. And as soon as we bought it, ding, they said your table was ready, stuff like that. Or I went to New York and my room wasn't ready. And I said, "Oh, maybe I'm meant to ground my energy into New York before that time that I went to speak." And so I walked around the block to all the places I used to live, hang out, and came back. And as soon as I took that last picture and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to head back," ding, your room's ready. So you just let the flow through you. We have to get out of our head, stop trying to control it, because our mind can only comprehend what we know, what has existed in our life, or what we see as possible. But then we're only going to get more of what exists. If we want potentiality and magic and stuff that drops in and blows our mind, we got to get out of our head and surrender to something that's bigger than us.
100%. Yes, I'm so aligned with this. And I've experienced it myself. So I know it's true on multiple levels. And I go through this with clients as well. It wasn't too long. I had a lunch date with a client and they were kind of, ranting off about how they don't have the opportunities or this isn't happening or that's not happening or this. And I asked her, I said, "How many red cars have you seen today?" She said, "None." Can I tell you the irony, Jocelyn? I have a red car. And I followed her the whole way there. In other words, opportunities are all around us, but sometimes we have these blinders on. And if you're familiar with places like New York where they have horse-drawn carriages, right? The horses have blinders on so they can only see right in front of them, right? So they don't get distracted by everything around them. Well, a lot of times I feel like we have these filters on too that we just can't see them. And, to your point, the more we tell ourselves, "I'm lucky," and reinforce it with something that happened today that proved you were lucky. Even if you have to, exaggerate it a little bit. You know what? I'm lucky because Jocelyn is on my podcast today and we're having a fantastic conversation. And, this podcast is going to get viewed by thousands and thousands of people and change somebody's life. I'm lucky because I was a part of it. Jocelyn's lucky because she was a part of it. And you know what? You just tell yourself and reinforce it. And then, you know what? That's why gratitude is so important to this work. Because when you hold space for these things with that foundation of gratitude and you hold that emotion of gratitude, Gratitude is the emotion of reception. It's the emotion of current possession of something. Nobody's sitting behind a sports car saying, "I wish I had a really nice sports car," because they already have it. They're just grateful that they have it. They're not saying, "I wish I had one," when they have it. That's the power of this work, and it's about living your life in accordance to not need, but of current possession, because you're inherently worthy. Did I get that right?
Absolutely. I mean, we're just lucky that we're here and that
Yes.
we're alive.
Yeah.
And if we look at that in every moment, if you have your cell phone that you've had for years and you're kind of bored of it and you want the new one, but then all of a sudden one day you lose it and you get it back. How grateful are you for that thing that's old that you were bored? If you could live that way every single day, you are truly wealthy because then you need for nothing else. Therefore, it gets to show up because you don't need it anymore. What's for us to me, because I play a lot in the quantum and in quantum physics, past, present, future is in the now.
Mhm.
And so to me, these dreams you have are just future memories of what's
Mm.
possible that gets to drop in just like your past memories because they've proven that your mind doesn't know the difference between a real memory and a imagined memory because it's quantum physics, right?
Yeah.
And so if you know without a doubt that these visions, these big callings, these things that you want to bring into this world have already happened, and now we're just collapsing time for them to show up into this reality, then you get to show up every single day in that ease and that flow versus, I hope it works out. What if it doesn't work out? All that resistance. Oh, should I? Shouldn't I? All of that noise is sucking the energy dry, stopping it from coming into your life. But the minute you can clear that out and actually enjoy your life, knowing that it's coming, and make this part of your life so magical that you don't need it. And like you said, choose every single day. Every single day is a choice point to the story that you're going to create about the thing because nothing's real until you give it meaning, until you create a story around it. Once you've done that, now you've just created that into your reality. Your beliefs are your superpower, right? And so you have the same thing. You mentioned this, like clients will say, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. And you ask them, does that always happen? And they'll say, no, but these things keep happening. And I say, well, do you want to focus on that and keep creating that to be your reality? Or do you want to focus on the times that it didn't happen and have that be your reality? Because I used to always say, I'm really good at making money, but I can't hold on to it because I'd make a lot of money and then a pipe would burst or, all of these things. And I would code that into my mind. Therefore, it would show up into my life until I realized, wait, does that always happen? No. So why am I focusing on the times that it does happen? What about the times that it doesn't? And my bank account goes all the way up to here. And so once I started focusing on that, then that old pattern disappeared because I didn't give it energy anymore. It was no longer part of my story. Yes, in the beginning, it's frustrating because it's not always perfect. When I chose that I live in a reality, I just decided I'm going to live in a reality of magic and miracles. And I chose that. And I was sharing that with my son. At the time, I think my son was 4 years old. Anytime something magical happened, I'm like, see, Bodhi, we're magic and miracles. See, we're magic and miracles. One time we forgot his toys at the beach. And you know what happens when you forget kids' toys at 4 years old? They have meltdowns.
Meltdown.
And
Right.
I said, don't worry about it. We're magic and miracles. And we'll find something because your mind will always find something. So we went down to the beach and we started digging and we dug up a Lego wizard. And then he like out of everything to dig up, it was a wizard. And so he used it as his magic wand. And so now he believes his reality is magic and miracles because anytime something doesn't happen, we turn it into something amazing. That becomes your superpower. Literally, your life changes overnight. Is it always easy? No, because sometimes the old beliefs will show up into your reality. Then it's your choice to play with them. It's your choice to play with. When you realize where the fears and anxieties come from, it doesn't come from your now, it comes from your past. And it comes from your fear of the future or are you worthy enough to receive this? And so when those emotions come up, look at them and say, do I want to play with this thought? Do I want to play with this belief? And if I do, play with it. If I don't, say, not mine, not playing, because that's my old belief. And I don't live in that reality anymore. And then look for something in your reality that's magical or lucky or something to compound your belief that this is what you get to live. Because I know everybody listening to this has had incredible things drop into their life out of the blue. It is impossible that you didn't have a chance encounter, or even your partner, whatever it is, or the miracle of your baby or your new dog. These things come in, but we don't give it enough credit. And if we did, life then starts to become incredible.
Wow. So true. Absolutely. I think the statistics are we're like 1 in 400 trillion chance of just being alive or something like that. I mean, it's like 4 with 17 zeros behind it, right? It's astronomical. And so the pure fact that you're alive right now is a miracle, right? The pure fact that you have your health, a miracle. The pure fact that you're listening to this podcast, a miracle. I was actually saying to my husband the other day, it's really cold where I am. We had an ice storm and we took hot showers. And after my shower, I said, I'm so grateful for this hot shower because, less than 100 years ago, right? They didn't have a hot shower. So the things that, our ancestors went through that we don't have to go through, having meals every single day, having hot showers, not having these horrible diseases, right? Like the bubonic plague and all of these things that impacted our ancestors. So much gratitude. And when you again look for the things to be grateful for, you keep finding more of it. And start going and saying today, I'm a lucky person. Money flows to me effortlessly and easily just because I am alive. Opportunities and people come to me effortlessly and easily just because I'm here. Start saying that and watch it happen, right? Because I know this is true. It's too weird not to be true. There's a reason you and I met in Belize, right?
Exactly. We were so aligned. And I know everything I'm talking about you've done as well too. I could feel it because our language is different.
Yeah.
It's the thing that if something, I like to play with weather and not let weather kind of like control my life, and just believe that if I desire to go to the beach that day, it's because it's going to be good no matter what. And if it's not, I will make it magical.
Mm-hmm.
That is the mindset. I'll do something fun. Like when we were on my father-in-law's boat, and he was checking the weather every single day and it was supposed to rain. I said, stop checking it. Let's just be here. It's going to be sunny. And if it's not, we'll find something magical. And one day it rained. So I blew up all these balloons and we started having a balloon fight in the cabin, because no matter what, nothing's going to stop you. If you have that belief in the beginning, yes, I promise, it is hard. It is hard because your neural pathways are already shooting this one direction. And so it's going to be hard to create, that shift of perception. But if you do it consistently, maybe the first day you'll just, like you said, notice one tiny thing, even if it's just, I'm lucky that I'm alive. And then the more you do it, the more that it starts showing up. And you don't allow anything to be bad. To me, if something shows up and it doesn't work out, I just say it's a universe redirect, or it's an opportunity for me to not care. And I say that what if caring is the deepest form of love?
Mm.
Not caring is the deepest form of love.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we care, have expectations, have all of these things and try and control it, we're not loving that person in pure love for who they are, or loving our life in pure love for this incredible life that we get to live. We're judging it, we're controlling it, we're all of these things. And so because I care that this didn't happen, it ruined my day. But if I know that it's not about these things and all of these, those things, then it just gets to flow through me like a wave. Sometimes you're going to have rain and sometimes you're going to have sunshine. It's what do you do on those rainy days and what do you do on those sunshine, the meaning that you put on it. that make it enjoyable, because now I enjoy rainy days. I also enjoy beautiful sadness when I'm sad, because I can feel the sadness, and I turn it into, a romance movie instead of a drama movie. And so how do you desire to experience this life that we get to live? The world is going through so much right now, and that's why I focus so much on the spiritual billionaire energy, knowing that we're not helpless to the things that are going on, knowing that we can make these choices every single day in our life, and we will ripple it out to our family, to our friends, to our community. And the more of us that are doing this with this mindset, the world will shift. It's inevitable, because we're now thinking in a different way. We can focus on how horrible things are, or like you said, we can focus on how horrible they were and how lucky we are to live in the luxury that we do. It's not perfect, but we're evolving. And if we can be grateful for that and do our part to make a difference, eventually that will evolve just like our ancestors evolved the past. But if you think about living now and going back, like you said, back 100 years or 200 years, you will be so grateful to be here right now. You know what I
I'm
mean?
so grateful we don't have corsets, right? That's another
Or that would be being beheaded.
beheaded, getting in jail, and it's the worst situation, right? Dying of a common flu. I mean, there's
Yes.
so much to be grateful for right now.
Yeah, and all we have to do is choose it. You get to choose it in every moment, no matter how difficult the situation is, no matter, like that last miscarriage after 5 miscarriages, like all of the horrible things that happened to me that I thought were horrible. It started in 2016. My grandpa passed. A week and a half later, my grandma passed. A week later, my mom had a stroke and she lost full mobility on the left side of her body. So then I came home. I was living in Hong Kong at the time, and I flew back every 2 weeks to help her until I realized it wasn't sustainable. So 4 months later, my husband and I left our career of 20 years and moved home to Hawaii, where our career didn't exist. I thought we could fly back and forth and we'd be fine. No, the Hong Kong went through protests. Then COVID happened, shut down the entire industry. I had nothing to fly back to. I hadn't like lived in a place before that I didn't have a network, because I hadn't lived here for 20 years. While I was grieving, while I was supporting my mom to recover from her stroke, and then 3 years later, had my first miscarriage. It just kept getting worse and worse. I came home to all my childhood things, started getting bullied again. I forgot who I was. It was the most traumatic time of my life, but it was I would never change it for the world, because it gave me an inner strength that allows me to do what I'm doing, to create all of the things that I'm creating now, but also love my life, like have so much gratitude for my life, because every time something happened, I had the choice to be a victim to it, or I had a choice to say, this is happening for me, not to me. Now, what can I do to turn this into my superpower instead of break me down? And it was not easy. There were times where I felt like I was in a deep, dark hole and I was clawing my way out. And every time I made a little progress, I get kicked right back down and just keep doing that. And that was 6 years. But that made me unstoppable, because now I know some of my worst fears came true, and I'm stronger than I've ever been. So, yes, my fears will pop up about the future, but I don't play with them, because I know that I'll turn them into my superpower. So I'll say, not mine, not playing, and say, let go, let God, let go, let the universe, whatever it is, just surrender to this bigger thing. But it's our choice. In every moment, it's our choice. And if we take our power back from the external world, and we no longer measure ourselves from people's opinions and our success and all of these superficial things, we now have this inner power that makes us unstoppable, and nothing can take our happiness, because we'll always find a way to turn it into something good. And I'll give you a really quick example. I think it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I can't remember. It was the new year and it was my first day to go back into the world. And I'm like, this is going to be the best day ever. And from the morning that I started, everything went wrong. My son just did not want to get up. Took him to school, first day back. He had a meltdown. We were there for half an hour. Finally, I was able to get him into class, and I was going to make it just in time to my yoga class. But then there was a car accident, and I get to my yoga class 5 minutes late, and they close the door because they close it exact on time. And I said, "I thought this was gonna be my best year ever. What in the world is going on?" And then I realized this is an opportunity for me to stand in my power and be the leader that I was born to be. What would a leader do? I would go home and do yoga myself. So I drove home. I said, nothing's going to take my power. I drove home, did yoga in my living room by myself. And then I was missing a camera lens. $2,400 was supposed to be shipped to me. We bought it from Best Buy. It was like 3 weeks late. I called. They said, "Oh, our records show that you picked it up at the shop." And I said, "What?" And I said, "No, I didn't. It was meant to be shipped to my house." And they said, "Well, there's nothing we can do. Our records show that you picked it up. You're going to have to go to the store that you bought it from and talk to the person that you bought it from and figure it out." And the old me was freaking out. And I said, "No, everything is happening for me, not to me. So how do I want to live this experience as a story that I'm going to tell to inspire myself, my son, my clients, my whoever?" And so then I said, "Okay, well, it's happening for me, not to me." So I went in and I'm like, somehow magically, this is all going to work out. I don't need to stress about it. I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to play with it. I'm going to take aligned action. I went down and there was a really long line. So I was going to be late for something else. And I was like, it'll all work out. And the more I detached, the more it worked out. The line moved. I get up to the front. The guy says, "Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Here, we'll get another one shipped to you right away." But then everything else kept going wrong. All these other things that weren't as big, but every moment was crunchy. I call it crunchy. And then even to the point that we had made this dinner reservation at a restaurant in advance, like a month in advance, because we wanted to go and eat this one food, which was this uni that I loved. We get there, we sit down. First of all, I'm late because everything. Sit there, order it, and they say, "We just ran out of it. They just ordered the last one before you." And I was like, "Of course." And I was like, "You know what? Give me this." I ordered tempura and I said, "I'm going to make this the most delicious meal I have ever had because I get to be here with my son and my parents and I get to eat this meal." And I had left that day feeling the most powerful that I had ever felt before. Got home to the garage with my son because my husband was at work. And I said, "Man, Bodhi, this was the best day ever. Everything went wrong, but I feel stronger than ever before." And he went to the mailbox, brought back some mail. I was like, "Oh, great, another bill from Hawaiian Electric." I opened it up, but it wasn't a bill. It was a check for $7,400 or $200 as a rebate for something I didn't even know I was going to get because I stopped letting things bother me. The universe then flipped the switch. It was no longer going to show me victim things. It was now going to show me magic. And then things like that start showing up all the time. So it's our choice how it doesn't mean that nothing is perfect. It means we don't allow things to affect us and we get to alchemize and turn it into a power and not react and not put a story or a meaning on it. Your whole life will shift. Whatever meaning you put on it is what it will be.
100%. Act as if the check is in the mail, everybody, because it is. I have experienced that myself too, where I am not expecting anything. I open my mailbox and literally there's a check in the mail. This can happen to anybody, by the way. I love what you said. Let go, let God. We are responsible for our intentions and our integrity. God is responsible for the outcomes. Stop trying to control them. It'll only control you if you keep that up. I know this. Trust me, firsthand. Jocelyn, thank you so much for being an amazing guest on this show today. Thank you for everyone who tuned into this episode of Grasp Confidence Podcast. Guys, let us know in Apple on a review what your favorite takeaway was from this episode. What did Jocelyn say, or what did I say, that made you think a little differently? I think my biggest takeaway, our beliefs create our reality. Jocelyn, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. We will catch you on the next episode. Take care.